All right. Welcome everyone to the PACIO weekly contributor meeting. Today is Wednesday, March 26, 2025. On our agenda today, we have regular leadership updates and the subgroup updates, and we will continue our US CDI V6 draft comments discussion follow-up from the last week's discussion. The subgroup updates and the ADI community had a meeting today, but unfortunately, Maria Moen, who is a subgroup lead, cannot make this meeting, and she will provide update during our next week's weekly PACIO weekly meeting.
Yeah, I can provide actually an update.
Okay, okay. All right. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Uh, Without further ado, I will pass it to Dave to provide the leadership update and then the ADI subgroup update as well.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. So here's the timelines and use cases. So we're continuing to plow forward on advanced directives STU2, personal functioning engagement STU2, and transitions of care STU1. So, we're the only thing that's really changed here is I actually moved in the personal functioning engagement a little bit because we are reaching the end of ballot reconciliation and really starting to go through the publication process. That publication process takes about 4 to 6 weeks. And so, we will be, you know, we're actually a little ahead of schedule there. So, so that'll be, that's great. And then transitions of care, we're looking to go into the May ballot, and advanced directives, we're preparing for the September ballot. Um, any questions on the timelines? All right. So just wanted to give an update on ADI, Advanced Directives Interoperability. We had a meeting earlier today. It's focused on the STU2 implementation guide, and we continued going through the environmental scan that Maria has done with the ADI subgroup and basically go through, some of the issues that we found. We've, been looking at roughly 90 different documents, portable medical order documents, and trying to reconcile and get some feedback from, folks who are the real experts in this. And so, we discussed several issues. One of them is mental status and the ability to make decisions about your advanced directives in medical care. And there's a variety of different value sets that, or values that can be used to apply to this. But the feeling is we don't want to barrage folks with a whole lot of choices, especially when a lot of them are very similar. So we did reach agreement on having a value set with three different items in it: able to use decision-making strategies, unable to use decision-making strategies, and unable to make decisions about medical treatment due to impaired mental capacity. So those are the three, all SNOMED, and we got general agreement on that. We also achieved agreement for a value set on personal health goals, where we discussed that, and particularly, if there's something that's really important that's happening in somebody's life, and they want to try to extend their life as much as possible, even if their condition may be terminal. Um, how do you express that and all of that? So we did achieve an agreement on a value set for that. That's a larger value set, but still not huge. And then we also talked about on some of the forms that are required by 9 states. There's a diagnosis that's recorded as part of the portable medical order, and so we didn't want to require that, but we wanted to apply a must support flag to that so that software and implementations can support that information. And I think it would be particularly critical if you're an implementer who wants to, say, sell your software nationwide. You would need to support this anyway. So we don't see this as a necessarily a huge burden to implementers to require to have a must support on that. We are coming close to reaching the end of the environmental scan items. We've got a few more things to go, but we're now, I think we look to shift to the mental health advanced directives discussions probably in, the next few sessions. So that's kind of an update for ADI. Any questions? All right. Standardized medication profile. We're still really waiting for, we've gone and done everything we need to publish through HL7, and HL7 has not yet published it. That may be affected by the communication pause. I'm not sure. But in the many, in the meantime, we're, looking towards what we can do for our next release, and figuring out how that can happen. We did have some learnings from the January Connectathon, as I've mentioned, that we want to incorporate, and also ask the question: is there other functionality that we might need? And then we're looking still to figure out what a funding stream might look like for that. So that's an update on standardized medication profile. Anybody have any questions there? All right. We got several upcoming.
Just a second. Dave, this is Shelley Spiro.
Yep.
Just that there's been a couple of errors that have come through by Lynn Lasco at HL7 that's holding up the publication. Andy is working on that.
Okay.
So we're not quite sure where the errors are coming from. And that's what Lynn is working with Andy on.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah. I mean, we can follow up with Andy and see if we can help out at all. So,
It has to do with the build, the CI build.
yeah, it's probably the IG publisher,
Yeah.
which has been updated since Andy probably.
Well, Andy's been working closely over
Yeah.
the last few days with that.
Okay. Well, I'm sure Andy's got it in hand, but
Yeah, he does.
yeah, great.
And then we've reported to the pharmacy work group at HL7.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mhm.
It's got some upcoming conferences, one later this week. And we'll be doing a PACIO poster there, and then in May, and then we've submitted an abstract for October. And as we went through last time, there's a whole slew of other conferences that we're looking to try to coordinate. Many, many thanks to the community, this community, for stepping up and going to these conferences and presenting on PACIO's behalf. We really, really, really appreciate that. And it's a great, again, it's a great way to get the word out as to what we're doing. And I think that's a key step in the further growth and sustainment of this organization. So many, many, many thanks. And that's pretty much it. Any questions? All right, I will hand it back to Yolanda.
Thank you very much, Dave, for provide the leadership updates and also some of the subgroup updates. All right, and let's move on to the next a big chunk of the items, and that will be subgroup lead update. First, I will invite Jamar to provide the PFE subgroup update.
Sure, thank you, and hello everyone. We had a great meeting today. Thanks to Uba for leading a lot of or leading the discussion today. But for our meeting this morning, we really looked at the behavioral health, USCDI plus behavioral health. Their information, as well as the CCDA IG review for the discharge summary, and just looking for opportunities for us to add things to make sure they meet PFE needs, and especially for post-acute care settings. So we're looking at those, and also looking at where we can collaborate with other work groups within PACIO, so we're not duplicating work and really on the same page. So had a great meeting today, identified a lot of things. Thanks to everyone who participated, and some are on the call now. And for the next meeting, we will continue to do the same. So just look for those items that might not meet PFE needs or post-acute care needs, and see where we can create some synergies within the other work groups. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Jamar. So next up, we have a TOC subgroup updates, and James.
Sure. We've just been kind of pressing hard into the balloting process. So we've been taking care of the last couple of meetings to get through into our final ballot approval. That included approvals from the patient care work group, which we've received. And now we're just working through the quality reports to finalize the technical side of the IG, and that will hopefully be approved this afternoon. So we will be set for ballot as of this afternoon, if everything goes according to plan. After that, we'll be kind of prepping and getting ready for taking comments and reconciling any differences that come up. We do have a couple of final things to include that will probably be put in as ballot comments from within our group. But we are, I think, pretty much set for moving into that. And then on the community side, we're continuing to work through a couple of comments. We did get some indication from the leadership that they wanted to support medication administration. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But that's the primary updates for right now. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And we're so glad the TOCIG is making headway toward the main ballot. All right. So next up on our agenda will be the US CDI V6 draft comments discussion. Last week, the whole community discussed the US CDI V6 draft comments, and we had a discussion on the leveling strategy for PACIO to submit the US CDI comments, and the group discussed and voted and passed the PACIO community will submit the US CDI comments based on the data elements criteria on the ONC's leveling criteria going forward. And we also split this year's V6 draft comments into 2 blocks, and we discuss and approve 7 data elements by the community for the PACIO to submit. And this week we'll continue the discussion for the rest of the data elements comments. And I will pass it to James to start the discussion.
Sorry, it stole my controls once I hit share, so I had to find them again. Okay. Thanks, Yolanda. Yeah, that's a nice summary of where we are. I think that's kind of covers everything in this slide, so I'll show it real quick. Voted on the leveling. We voted on the comments, the 7 comments that didn't have, sorry, the bottom part down here. 7 comments that didn't really have any significant change since last time. And then we'll be discussing 8 comments today and then looking to vote on them next week, so that to ensure everybody has time to review and provide any feedback offline, so we can get to final approval. Final approval next week is going to be really the critical item, so that we can move forward with submitting the comments shortly thereafter and meeting the deadline of April 4th or April 14th, excuse me. So a quick review. This is a little bit consolidated version of the 7 comments, but each recommendation represents one of the comments. This is here so folks can reference it later. I'm not going to go through this again because it'll just, I think, take time that we've already spent last week to going through that approval. So I'll go ahead and press into the changes that were made since our last submission of comments, based on feedback we've received over the last couple of weeks. The first data element is the advanced directive. Based on feedback from the ADI community, they felt the reason for change here was basically that the data element is not sufficiently developed and there are no standards that back it at the moment. So the recommendation was to not put in any comment this cycle. The previous comment was to move back into having an ADI data element under its own data class. But we're going to hold off on that recommendation right now because it's just not sufficiently developed. As noted, I'm just going to run through these. If at the end of each slide, I'll ask for feedback. But this is for understanding so that we can understand this and vote on it next week. The purpose of capture, excuse me. We previously were requesting that ASTP either promote purpose of capture or rationale to level 1 and then remove the other one, to better align with what CMS and the HIT work group are doing, where they're emphasizing the promotion of signature and purpose of capture. We decided to change our data element or our comment to focus on the promotion of purpose of capture, and just basically drop the discussion of the rationale and leave that at level 0. So the primary purpose is to push purpose of capture up to level 1 and match up with what CMS and the HITW work group are doing. Does anybody have any questions or comments about those two data elements and the changes that they received? Okay, moving forward then. The patient communication status data element. This is the previous comment was to push forward with accepting the patient status, but kind of significantly changing it from a status to a personal demographic item. So changing the name of it away from status to be just patient communication and move it to patient demographic. The community has given input that that was not an appropriate comment to submit, and that we should just be helping advance the patient communication status from level 0 directly into USCDI V6, as was the previous request, and continue to have it be a status associated with the health assessments. I'll leave it at that. Are there any questions or comments about that data element?
So, James, are we going to continue to make the recommendation for then to stay with patient communication status to advance?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I noticed that I'm going through them in kind of the opposite order of what they're on the slide, but I really wanted the first thing on the slide to be the thing that we are going forward with. So.
Okay. Yep. Just want to make sure. Thanks.
Thanks for asking. I noticed I was doing that as I spoke through it, just because it's the natural way my brain wanted to go through the order. The last of the changes to the comments we've put in prior is regarding portable medical orders. We had previously advocated that portable medical orders should go forward, but renamed to be the singular so that each record was an individual order. The big note there is, and that was approved by ASTP into the draft of USCDI V6, so that is moving forward. The new part of the comment is basically we'll be supporting what they've done already and saying, yes, continue to have that. That's great. Please do so. But also adding, we would like to update what the item represents, because it was felt that the current portable medical order was really only going to capture structured data, and we really needed to focus on bringing in unstructured data, other things that were kind of in the environment currently, and also making sure that the scope was broad enough across portable medical order that it wasn't just focused on end-of-life care issues. So I broke this text block that kind of described the rationale of why we were changing this into bullets, so you can kind of see each part of it. The PMO is too narrow in scope. There's not currently any IG or published standard that supports it. And the underlying need is to capture the structured and unstructured elements. So that's how we're proposing putting in the newly shaped comment for portable medical order. Any questions or comments? Okay. The new comments, these are all stem from a request from CMS to have the community look at a couple of different items across allergy and intolerance, and also medication will be the next two. The first two ended up being from allergy intolerance. The first one is the criticality data element. We put together this rationale and circulated it for feedback. But the main crux of the comment is that we are supporting CMS's recommendation, and this is the main differentiation from the CMS comment as it is going to be submitted. That the PACIO community supports CMS's recommendation that criticality should be advanced from level 2 into USCDI v6. And the rationale, the central area of that text block is that it's a critical element that is a companion to the clinical manifestation and AKA reaction, as well as the allergy or intolerance agent. So whatever caused the reaction, what the reaction's clinical manifestation was, and the criticality of it were the main things that they felt clinicians needed to know, especially in our scenarios where we would have transitions of care and things of that nature for post-acute care. Any questions or comments related to that data element? Okay, hearing none. As we were going through that review, we received feedback that the drug class allergy intolerance data element could stand to have improved vocabulary. So we've developed this comment to basically indicate that it would be appropriate to also include the medication reference terminology, which includes several of the existing applicable standards that are already included in this data element, but it just provides a more holistic representation. So basically, the existing standards were the first three, and we suggested including the fourth one. Any questions or comments? Sorry, for those playing along at home that weren't watching the screen, I did highlight the first three are RX norm, mesh, which I think we have spelled out in here somewhere, maybe not, and SNOMED CT were the existing three standards, and then Med RT is the fourth that we're requesting to be added. Okay, moving on to this is new today. I shared this out with a couple of the folks that were submitting comments on behalf of different subgroups. This one's a whole block of text, so I apologize, but it's a long comment and I wanted to make sure that everybody had a moment to read it. There are three data elements that are included in this comment. The request is for medication administration code, medication administration dose, and medication administration reason reference data elements to all be advanced from level 0 to level 2 and also included in USCDI v6. Since there have been comments from other organizations previously, this comment is showing support for CMS, CDC, and the Council of State and Territorial Epidemiologists who have put comments in previously for the advancement just mentioned of those data elements from level 0 up into USCDI v6. These are important data elements because they help with understanding the actual administration that has occurred in care settings, not just prescriptions or I think it's prescriptions and orders of and things of that sort, but the actual administration that's taken place. So during transitions of care, during other care settings, the receiving staff can understand what's been done previously. The additional parts, the yellow parts, are the modifications we've made on the CMS submission that is anticipated. It will look very similar to this. And then the final section noting that this recommendation was endorsed by the PACIO subgroups, the transitions of care, and the PFE, personal functioning and engagement. So I think there were differences of opinion on this previously, so I'd like to be sure to check today. Are there comments, questions, feedback on this data element that we should go through?
James, this is Jeff Rochon. newer to this conversation, and I know that Shelley Spiro's on there and on here, and she's got some more history, but I don't believe that there's a concern other than redundancy. And our comments expressed that there was a feeling that some of these data elements were already included, and Shelley can speak a little bit more to the where and why. But obviously, we want to make sure that the right tools are in front of folks, and transitions to care is always a slippery slope. But we also want to make sure there's not duplicative components that are burdensome to anybody trying to submit these elements into the system. So, Shelley, do you want to speak to the comments that you previously put into this, just so that we can get a little background?
Sure. So I think, James, we had talked about this. I apologize, I couldn't get back to you. I was sick the last couple of weeks.
Oh,
But
that's okay. We're sorry to hear that.
the medication, what is a medication administration code? Is that the LOINC code for the type of medication administration list? I know I've been back and forth with CMS and CDC on this, that I believe those data elements are already there, and we submitted, and I did talk to Dave about this before I retired, which was there is a level 0 request for a medication list type, which includes a code for a medication administration list, which would then identify that these medications were administered in whatever practice setting we're talking about. So the dose, the medication itself, all of the data elements that they're interested in are already in the medication class. So
Sorry.
you have indication, which is the same as the medication administration reason. You also have route of administration. So
Yeah.
all of those data elements are already in the final version of V5, except for the medication list type, which has a LOINC code for medication administration, which I put into the comments back to you.
Right. I guess the part where I'm struggling the most is I hear what you're saying, and I don't know, I don't have the background to be able to adjudicate whether this is duplicative or not. So I am looking for community input. The one thing I did want to ask was within the SMP fire IG, it does have a medication administration profile. So it seems to treat that data separately. So I'm trying to
No, the
understand.
medication administration, the SMP fire implementation guide
Yeah.
calls out the medication list type.
Okay.
So if you were to say, I want to put together a medication list that includes the data elements that CMS wants, you would be able to do it using the SMP implementation guide. What isn't in USCDI V6, which is level 0, is the medication list type. And that data element has LOINC codes for the different types of medication list: a discharged medication list, a medication administration list, what was administered in a hospital or in a SNF, all the different types of lists. So you can identify that list, medication administration, but use the data elements that are already identified in the medication fire resource: dose, indication, all of the other data elements that are in USCDI V5
Mhm.
and have already been approved for V5. What you're doing is you're adding additional medication administration reason is the same as an indication, but it would just occurred within the administration. So you're
Right.
duplicating what are already elements within USCDI.
Understood. Okay. So
But if CMS wants that, then and they don't want to put the medication list type in, then
No, I mean,
I'm
I think,
okay with that. It's just redundant.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think we have been striving to avoid redundancy within the work that we're doing. So I don't want to discount that at all. Unfortunately, the two folks for between PFE and the transition of care, neither are here, so I can't get their thoughts at the same time. So kind of stuck in
Well,
limbo.
if you want to go with it, I'm okay with it. It's not, I'm just,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
I mean, I was on the interoperability standards work group for USCDI version 4 and version 5. And this was something that we talked about was redundancy and this medication administration from a historic perspective in version 4 and version 5 were discussed with CMS.
mhm,
And the solution that we came up with under version 4 and 5 was that we needed the category of the medication list type. That's why we did create LOINC codes for the different types of medication lists so there wouldn't be redundancy. But, we don't have to fight this if that's
well,
what they want
I
to
mean,
do.
it sounds like you've already fought this fight, so
Yeah.
we probably shouldn't fight it again. So let me I don't know that we have since kind of the two groups that have advocated for avoiding the redundancy and advocated that critical data elements are not both present. And we weren't going to vote on this today anyway. Let me do another effort to maybe circle us all up offline and see either via email or via a one-off meeting, so that we can, discuss this together and come to conclusion. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I mean,
Great. Yeah.
whatever you guys want to do, if you want to vote on it, you're just putting in a comment
Right.
anyway. You're going to the interoperability standards work group for USCDI v6 draft is still going to make the determination of what they want to do.
Right.
So, if you want to go ahead and approve it the way CDC and CMS wants it, because they want to add additional data elements to the medication data class that's going to help them, that's fine. But realizing that the PACIO SMP project portion has identified the solution and created a FHIR implementation guide using the medication list type, which is already in level 0 and explains the different types of medication lists, that data element of those LOINC codes would identify medication administration and allow you to use the current lists that are in there and get it instead of creating an additional
Right.
medication administration
Right. No, I don't think the PASIO community is interested in going against something that we've created in our own IG. So let me loop everybody back together and see if we can come to a conclusion offline.
Okay. And I had given you that portion that you have in the Word document,
Yeah. Mhm.
rationale for that.
Yeah. For avoiding the redundancy, you mean?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go over this last data element real quick. It is associated with the medication administration also, so we'll go over it kind of briefly. But this one is already level 1, and the medication administration patient is just a kind of double check to make sure that the subject included in medication administration is a patient. It seems kind of straightforward that the patient would be included logically anyway, but for I think some of the quality measures and things of that nature, CMS and CDC are continuing to press forward with saying that this is a necessary data element also. But I think per Shelley's description just a second ago, we've already established it. And I think the inclusion of this data element was also considered redundant. Correct me if I'm wrong, Shelley.
No, that's correct, because you have it in the demographic information.
Yep. Okay.
It's already identified as a data element. It's just what bucket you're putting it in for reporting.
Mhm. Yep.
And that's why the medication list type is an important component to be able to block all your medications into the right bucket so you have a clearer picture of what you're trying to report on.
Right.
But again, I don't want to fall on my sword for this. If CDC and CMS want it, what it isn't going to make a difference. It's still going to be up to USCDI V6
Yep.
Draft group to make that determination.
Exactly. And with that, that covers all of the elements that I had. The last two slides are just the full text and the description of what we voted on last time, so that all of this information is kind of kept together for reference in the future. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Yolanda.
Thank you very much, James. And I think Jeff and Shelley, thank you for sharing your expert perspective. And I think at this point, we cannot reach the consensus and we'll continue to discuss. And believe next week, and we are going to trying to find a solution, and the whole PACIO community will vote on the rest of the data elements we discussed today. All right. I think we plow through all the items on the agenda. Is there any walk on topics people want to bring up? All right. Hearing none. Thank you all very much for joining us today, and we really appreciate your contribution and the ideas, and we want to make the PACIO community as a strong community, and we'll continue to work on their toward our goals, and we really appreciate your help. And with that said, and we cannot do it without you. And we will see you next week, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.